So this is Boruch Fleischman here at the Tikkun elevator Kollel. And you have to look at this page and say, well, what is going on in this page? Why did I bring this up? Well, we're learning the Zohar right now. We're learning the Zohar in Parshas Lacha, and I'm about to get into, I'll show you the pages like this. But before we can understand really what's going on in the Zohar, we need to know a couple of concepts that are brought out by the Uriah Kodesh. And starting from the bottom to the top, what is this world, this word down below? Well, this word down below is called cold summer. Cold summer. And the one up above at the top is called Naradchi. So in order to understand Naradchi, we have to understand cold summer. So I would say that the best of what I read in Arya Kaplan is that we really have no idea what the light of the Ein Sof is all about. But we do know that in order for it to reach us, it has to be clothed many times. So the word cold summer, and we're talking about once again the light of the Ein Sof Baruch, is first of all the kaf stands for kalim. So first of all, the or the Ein Sof goes in the kalim. The kalim have levushim. They have clothing. They have slumim. Slumim is a way that the distribution of the light. They have mochin. We talk about mochin all the time, which is as the energy. And interior to all of these is oros. The aleph stands for oros. So let's look at it again. It's called cold summer. So the or of the Ein Sof, let's say that is the aleph. We're talking about or. Or is not so simple either. But let's see, that's the or. And then let's start going back. The or is surrounded by a moach. So we talk about the moach. The moach is brain, but inside the brain there's some energy that makes the brain work. And then there's this concept of slomim. So the slomim is another type of lavush. On top of that is the lavush itself, and on top of that is the keli. So all of that represents the clothing that is around the or of the Ein Sof Baruch. Again, as Arya Kaplan says, we have no idea what the eye light of the Ein Sof Baruch is that, but only thing we know is if we bathed in it too much, we would disappear because we would become infinite. It's the opposite. We're working. Now let's come over and let's see the one at the top. Now I pronounce it, and most people I know pronounce this Naradchi. I know Yaakov Cronenberg always pronounced it Narnachi, but he's a Baal Tshuva, and so he says never trust anything he said, but it's interesting. So what you actually have here is the words Ner, first two letters, and then you have the word Nachi. That could be changed around like that, but we have to understand is that the first nun refers to the concept which we call nefesh. So understand that when the Kabbalists talk about a nefesh, this is the nefesh they're talking about. Then the inside of that nefesh. So this is nefesh is almost like the kli, corresponds to the concept of kli. There's a ruach that's inside of that. And then inside of that is an neshama. Then you would say panimi to that is another aspect of life, but it's not really panimi, as we'll learn as we, God willing, we get back to the Yotzvot Chaim, is that the chaya, which is the ches, and the yechida are qualities of light, but they're called makifim. They're much too powerful, much too close to the light of the Ein Sof Baruch. So they shine on the other lights that actually enter into, and we're usually talking about the world of the Tzilos, which is a model for us, and like that. Now, let me move this over here and bring on the Zohar Kodesh. Now, this is a very interesting piece, and we'll do a certain amount of it. I was supposed to be timing these things, and I'm not really oriented. We're going to start here on page Reish Lamed Hey, in the Matok Medevash. This is Parshas Lacha, right? We're going to go to the very bottom of this page because there's something interesting on the next page. And the Matok Medevash writes in this Rashi print, he says, as Maimer Zeh, a Maskil Kucha Barichu Remes Chachmas. So he's actually saying the beginning words of the Zohar that we're about to see. It begins with the words that the Kodesh Baruch Hu is hinted at in Chachma. So he said, Shutsuyim alav sisrei Torah, that here in Chochmah is where is designated the secrets of Torah. So then he says Arizal, and he tells where B'Sivat Daf Mochako, so Ad so whatever. So let's go. He braces there different mouths of Yavor. Now here, this is a point that I want to make. I'm sorry for the diversion. Kihu Gilyon Me'eza Chacham Ve'enim Arazor. So what we're about to see here is really a scroll that was somehow included in the Zohar, but it's not the Zohar of Rabbi Shimon. Kihu Gilyon Me'eza Chacham Ve'enim Arazor, and it doesn't come from the Zohar. The fish and Nidpas Bekal HaDefusim, and said once that the Zohar started to be written, which I think a lot of it, the publishing of it, what took place in northern Italy, Bekal HaDefusim to Roshnuhu as it's Hashem. So since it's already stated, we're going to explain it a little bit here. Let me turn the page. So the Zohar starts, and we read the Matak B'Debash. In order to understand it, we're on page Reish Lamed Vav. It says, Kusha B'Kucha B'Richu Ramez Chochmasa Ilah B'Abraham V'Yitzchak. Now this word Ramez is a little bit difficult, which means it's hinted at through the Chochmasa Ilah is a kind of really incipient, the really beginning of Chochmah, B'Abraham V'Yitzchak, and Abraham and Yitzchak. So the Matak translates, and he says, HaKodesh Baruch Hu, Remez Chochmah El Yonah B'Abraham V'Yitzchak. Now he said Remez. V'chein Basara B'Rivka Uvalot Kanufarsh V'Azel. So there are hints to these different kinds of levels of spirituality between them. And he goes on and he says like this, Abraham V'Dan Nishmasa the Nishmasa, which is what we call Chaya. When we had that little drawing of the Naranthi, let's just take a look. I can bring it right in here. Bring right in here this Naranthi. This level right here refers to Nishama the Nishama. And then there's a neshama inside of that. Whenever you say double language, it means one inside the next. As a matter of fact, all of this is one inside the next. So he says, Abraham V'Dan Nishmasa the Nishmasa. So he represents the revelation of a tremendous amount of light, which is called Chaya. Abraham Romez on the Neshama. He's the Penemius of the Neshama. Abraham Shebechesed, because Abraham, who comes from Chesed, Shor B'Chochmah, his real root is in Chochmah. Shemishon Nasham Nemshechas HaNeshama the Neshama HaNikvas Chaya, because from Chochmah, just listen to the words. He says Shemishon, that's a relationship between that, and comes out this concept of or, which is called Neshama the Neshama. V'yihin Neshama do ihu Sarah. Now the word Neshama, which is the next level in the Naranthi, the Neshama itself refers to Sari man. The Sarah Shebabina, and she represents Bina. Romez al HaNeshama Shehim HaBina, so that there's a correlation between Bina and the concept of Neshama. Now, he's going to break it out in a different way, may not be for today's show, we're going to see how that goes. So he says, Lot. What's Lot? Dohu Nachash, he represents the snake. Ubaz Zuge, and also his wife, she also represents the wife, the Haku Samakel. Samakel is the Samach Mem, the main channel, the main flow of evil in the world is through Samakel. He is male and female. Lot, Shuhu Lasha Lutusa Vukololo. Lot is actually the Lashon of cursing. It's a curse. Romels on the Nachash, which is really a remez to the Nachash. This is the remez he wants to say. Shehu Bazugo Shalasamach Mem, and she, that is the Nachash, is the wife of the Samach Mem. So to understand, a lot of people, the Zohar holds 100% that the Nachash is female, that a woman, in regards to seducing another woman to do bad things, is much more capable than a man. It's a wavelength. Ruach Kedisha, so now there's another concept. Here's a Ruach. So we go, what we had the, of the Naranchi, the Ches part refers to Chochmah. So then the Neshama part, that's the next letter, refers to Bina. And now we're coming to the concept of Ruach, which is the Kadisha do Yitzchak. This refers to Yitzchak. Yitzchak Shebegavura, who represents the left line, the line of strength and power. That's the left line. Is there Anpein Romas al Ruach HaKadusha? This is a reference to the Ruach, the concept of Ruach. Nefesh Kadisha Da Rivka. So the holy Nefesh, that is Rivka. Rivka Sheba Malchus, she represents Malchus. So now you have all these names. When you say Rivka, then you know that you're talking about Malchus. When you talk about Yitzchak, you know you're talking about Zeranpin, or the Ruach, and then so on and so forth. So he says, Rivka Malchus remembers al Nefesh HaKadusha. Before I show, then he furthermore explains, Shekamosha Yesh Ruach Kadusha, just like you have a Ruach. So in other words, there's an Aranchi and a Ruach of Kedusha. Kamo Kain Yetzer Hara. There's also something called a Yetzer Hara. Da Ruach HaBehema. This is the animal Ruach. Yetzer Hara, Bechinas HaZohar. This Yetzer Hara represents, just like Zer Anpin, who is a Ruach, represents the male aspect. So he says, Yetzer Hara, Bechinas HaZohar, Shucha Samach Mem, which is the male aspect, Anikra Ruach HaBehema, which is called the animal's Ruach. The Vishim is Arer Asa'ada, because what does this channel do? It is always arousing people, La'asa, B'maisa, Behema, to deal either with physically or even in your mind. They have your mind to switch channels to something more kosher, because that's what happened. La'asa, B'maisa, Behema, that's where you start thinking about V'chada Amar Shlomo. This is what Shlomo said, B'chachmaseh, Mi Yodeya Ruach B'nei Adam, who knows the Ruach of people? Oilahi. If it's actually going up, if it's a good thing. Lamala, where it's going upwards. Behind the Ruach HaKadusha Sha'oida, he Lamala the Kedusha, because what happens to the Ruach that has to do, the Ruach is breath itself, it's the cycle of life. He said, B'chachmaseh mi yodeya Ruach b'nei ha'adam ha'oilahi. So who knows whether or not this is actually a good thing? Lamala, that goes up. Behind the Ruach HaKadusha Ha'oilahi, Lamala, the Kedusha goes upwards to Kedusha. You rather see Lamata, the Eretz, and the other one, the animal one, maintains itself on the ground. But it's all alone with the Tuma. It stays involved in Tuma. Shehicha Yetzahara, so this Tuma, that's the Yetzahara, likes Tuma. Hanikra Ruach Behema, which is called the animal's Ruach. Look at Moshe Yesh Nefesh Kedisha, so just like you have a Nefesh, which is the ultimate Kli of the Kol Sema, he said, if you have a Nefesh Kedisha, so you have a nefesh which holds the lights of Kedusha. You also have a nefesh which holds the funneling of Tuma. That nefesh v'sitra the Yetzer Hara, and that other one is called the nefesh, the sitra of the Yetzer Hara, and that is the Zohar in Parshas Lech Lacha for today. This is for Fleischman, Tikkun, Elevator, Kollel.